It's important to select people who can train readily into our many different jobs, who, over a period, will develop in their work and make the best use of their abilities. Ability is valued here. Every member of present management started in some minor position, where every employee, no matter how many there are, is a person, an individual, not a number on a time card, who can advance in the business to the extent of his ability and can find lasting satisfaction in being a part of this company.
Those recruitment and development principles are still solid today, but the workforce has changed. Today, diversity is a fact of life, and in the coming years, more and more employees will work in teams of people who are different from themselves.
When you go into a company, understand we need you. We need to create an environment for everyone to be successful. On the other hand, the worker coming in shouldn't just depend upon a very broad-minded company management that is just going to take and pull people along through the process, because there is a process in place and one that's been working over a period of time. So the new people coming in should understand that and understand the system and how do you work within it.
People often talk about a glass ceiling as far as how high a minority or a woman can go in an organization. I personally haven't hit it yet, but that's because of my level in the organization. There are women ahead of me and above me in my particular organization. I think that the glass ceiling is there. I don't think it's there intentionally, and I think there are windows in it.
Diverse men and women, young and old, of different races, religions, ethnic background, physical abilities, and lifestyles, are making important contributions and reaching high levels in their organizations.
As an institutional investor, I manage a portfolio of about $3.5 billion. I essentially buy securities of large corporations. The lowest amount of money that I will invest in a corporation is $5 million. And the largest amount would be $60 to $70 million at a shot.
Diverse people are performing well and advancing in the multicultural workplace. But even in companies that value diversity, their success is not automatic.
An organization has a culture, and it's generally a culture that is made up of the values, the mission, and the goals of the people who started that organization or the people who are presently in a management position. The reality is that in this country, the majority of businesses and corporations are headed by white males. It's important for ethnic minorities and women to understand what that culture is. In other words, the values, the mission, and the goals in order to fit in and to work within that particular setting.
I learned by making an awful lot of mistakes, and I think because of that, it's taken me as long as it has, probably to reach the level that I have now. And I was constantly kind of fumbling over myself, trying to understand what was required to succeed in white America.
Regarding the rules, the visible ones are much easier to detect, whether it's a dress code or how you organize your office, so that people appreciate neatness. The more subtle ones, I think, are harder to detect. And this has to do with things like if you're in a meeting, who speaks first? Should you voice your opinion if you are not asked?
I think that my point is connected to Bill's proposal.
How to socialize with people?
Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I wanted you to meet Janine.
There are a lot of unwritten rules in organizations. There's so many of them, it's amazing. I can recall a time that I went to an international meeting and was prepared for the meeting, had all of the information, walked in, and everyone sat down, set their briefcase on the table, and laid out their cards, and exchanged cards all around the table, so that when it was done, everyone had a stack of everyone's cards in front of them, except me, because no one had mentioned to me that that was the way it was done.
I observed how the white males interacted with each other. I observed how some of them were more successful than others. I took notes on what they did, how they said things. They wore conservative suits, white shirts, burgundy ties, suspenders, what have you. I didn't go all that far, but I had to really observe them and their interactions and what made them successful. I observed who they had lunch with, who they played tennis with, who they went for coffee with.
Some organizations have made a commitment to valuing diversity and are training managers to share the rules or to change the rules to accommodate people who are different from the mainstream.
Face it, the people that you work with on a daily basis are not going to be primarily white males.
But change is slow, and employees who want to succeed will take charge of their own progress. That means taking responsibility for their own performance.
How you perform in your job is critical to your success. Understand what is expected of you, and your manager should tell you that, and then perform. And I am convinced that performance will pay off.
I think that women and ethnic minorities sometimes focus their energies in the wrong directions. For example, working independently rather than collectively. It's important to understand that there are other people who you have to work with and who you need support from in order to promote your idea or your contribution to the company.
Success in an organization really depends on two people, yourself and your boss. And you have to develop that relationship, a trusting relationship, to move beyond that. Who controls it? Well, the people who are making the rules, the people that are in power, the people who have founded the organization.
Every manager is different. Therefore, understanding how your manager operates is very important. If you don't understand it, ask the individual.
It's not enough to have good ideas and good relations with coworkers.
Lou, I had to ask 5 people this morning to find out you weren't coming in till after lunch. You know, all you flex timers make it almost impossible to keep track of people. But you know what? I've got an idea for using the system to schedule everyone.
Have you mentioned it to Luke?
You've got to be kidding. You won't take any suggestions from me.
Oh, come on. He's a nice guy.
I know that, but what you don't know is I make him nervous. I don't think he likes supervising a black woman.
Don't worry about that. Just do it.
Yeah? Right. See you later. Hey, Laura. Hi, how you doing?
You have to take the initiative to present your ideas, or your contribution may remain invisible.
Luke, got a second?
I always have time for my crew.
I can come back later.
Sit. Hello? Oh, hi, John. No, I'm really glad that you called.
Actually, this can wait. I better get back to work.
Suit yourself. Yeah, John. Oh, no, this is wonderful. Everything came in on time. We're back on schedule. Couldn't be better.
Laura. Did you tell him your idea?
I tried, but he's too busy.
Laura, just go for it. Okay?
Okay.
Sometimes it takes persistence, watching for the right time, asking for what you want.
Luke, about what I wanted to talk to you about?
I'm all ears, Laura.
Well, all this flex time and so many new temp workers, it's making it impossible to keep track of people's schedules.
How you approach your boss makes a difference. A manager might sense hostility where there is none and become defensive.
Things will go more smoothly if we had a system.
Yes, I'm well aware of the problem. You shouldn't let it upset you. I mean, it's been this way for a long time. We'll just have to put up with it for a while longer.
Some people are threatened by a rush of energy from their employees.
I've got it all figured out. See, if we schedule like this, it'll solve all the problems we're having moving inventory and the backup over in service.
Wait a minute. Have you run these numbers by Elliot? I'd want to make sure that the data's correct.
Luke, you don't need to check my numbers. I have more expertise in this type of analysis than anyone in the department.
Some managers doubt their minority employees and need to learn to trust people different from themselves. On the other hand, many employees, in their haste to do well, take on too much too fast and fail to complete all the necessary steps. They present a complete project without having built support for their work.
But Laura, you have to work with the system. Have you asked Dee Franco and Joe Francis what they think? I mean, they're going to have to buy into this too.
Well, no.
Why are you spending so much time on this? I've already got some very expensive time management experts studying work patterns. In the meantime, I'm getting complaints that you're backed up in several projects. It's affecting our output.
You ever tell him?
I tried, but I think my approach was a little wrong. There's got to be
Some people need to learn to be more assertive. Others need to learn to broach ideas more slowly, with sensitivity to the situation and feelings of others. Some people need to be more analytical in their problem solving. Others need to work on developing better people skills.
Advantage of the situation.
You know, the person who has the most control over the success in the organization is yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
How you present an idea is as important as what you want to present. And you could be the most intelligent person in the world with the most creative ideas in the world, but if you don't know how to manipulate organizational style, and that's cultural style, you're not going to be as effective as someone who is less creative, but who's a genius at interpreting organizational style.
Luke, I've been thinking about the problems we've been having with scheduling. I have a few ideas. What would you think of my working up a complete plan?
Well, tell me what you're thinking.
Let's talk priorities. I'm a little overloaded, and I want to make sure that I'm managing my time the way you think I should. Rescheduling will make it possible.
One thing that I have observed over and over again is that there are three key elements for success. They are talent, image, and exposure. And by exposure, I mean the quality of your relationship with others. And I think that's really why women and minorities are not promoted. They feel that as long as they do a good job, then they are worthy of the promotion. And they don't realize, yeah, it takes the talent, but more importantly, the exposure, the contacts, and the quality of your relationship with senior people are really the driving factors.
In other words, if it's advancement you want, you have to become a member in the club. Whenever you enter a new culture, you make a series of adjustments in dress, language, even diet, in order to survive. In the workplace, too, you must adapt to your organization's culture to be accepted as a contributing member of the club. A common complaint in all kinds of organizations is that minorities cluster, and this makes other people suspicious and uncomfortable. White men and women do not think of themselves as clustering, although they too seek out others like themselves.
Nuestro profesor de marketing dice que cuanto más participa el cliente en los mails es mucho mejor. Como por ejemplo es bueno ponerle esos pequeños stickers que le tiene que explicar dónde va el premio.
En el cuestionario que enviamos esta semana podríamos aumentar el número de respuestas e incluirnos sobre el entorno.
Podríamos aumentarlas aún más si incluyéramos las respuestas.
Look, you don't want to talk the language. Why don't you go back to your own country?
This is my country.
Hey, hold on, everybody. What's the problem here?
I can't stand the way they go on jabbering in Spanish and laughing at us when they know that we can't understand, and that's why they do it.
Don't be so paranoid. We're not talking about you. If that's what you think, that's your problem.
This isn't Mexico. Speak English.
I don't mind if they speak in Spanish, as long as it's personal. But if they're going to talk about work-related things, we should all be able to understand what's going on.
No matter if it bothers you, why don't you just ask them to translate for you and quit stewing about it? Mario, whatever you're saying, others feel left out. I know it's tough to speak a different language all day long, and I respect your need to connect with your own group. But we all gotta work here. There may be no perfect solutions, but let's talk about some options.
It's important for people to be with the people who are like them and understand their problems. It's a mistake, however, for the same people to stay isolated in their own groups. That makes it harder for us to join the mainstream.
When people speak Spanish or Chinese or Korean or any other language in the workplace, work relationships may suffer. Those who speak only English should learn to accept other people's need to speak their own language. but it also makes sense for all employees to either use the dominant language or to let others know what is being discussed.
Hey, Matt, we were talking about a course in direct mail marketing. I was saying we could improve the response rate if we include a return envelope. Maria said we could improve it even more if we include the answers to the questions.
Typically, white male managers tend to promote other white males. This is a reality we all have to understand and deal with. For women and ethnic minorities, it means taking the initiative in developing relationships in the workplace with other white males and white male managers.
So if this group happens to go bowling once in a while, you may have to go bowling with the group. And to try to get acceptance to the group and fit in, certainly the group's not going to always change for one individual. Doesn't mean they won't accommodate for them. But you got to, I think for the individual, it's important for them to try to understand the group, what its mores are and what its values are and what they value, and then try to see if your values can fit in.
You should have mentors, and ideally you should have 3 mentors. You should have someone who is your boss, mentoring you and helping you through. You should have someone on your boss's level, but is not in the direct line and reporting relationship, who can coach you. And you also should have someone who is more on a peer level, who can help you along and coach you in that sense.
A mentor doesn't usually come to you and say, let me be your mentor. In fact, it's often never formally discussed in that way. But that you can help your successes in a business by identifying people who are successful, people who are like you and people who are very different from you, and making it a point to spend time with them and ask for their feedback.
Most of the time, what you find is people who are willing to be helpful and willing to be supportive, or what you find is a large group of people who are acting in some way or another, largely out of either fear of your differences or ignorance about your differences. And those are potential allies. Those are recruits. If you respond to their fear or their ignorance in such a way that turns them into an overt racist, then you've created an enemy. And if you take some time and understand and help them along, you know, when they ask the dumb question, you understand where it's coming from and you work with that, and you create allies in that manner.
People new to a culture have a lot to get used to, like how and when people touch, handshakes, eye contact, new styles of problem solving, how presentations are made, and different ideas about what is important at work.
To date, these are the only responses that we had.
Getting a job done often means being able to relate effectively with peers and coworkers who may approach things differently from you.
Last time we agreed with Brainstorm about alternative uses for the new system. Are you ready to kick it around?
Telecommunications and routing of electronic mail.
Security systems built into the technology.
Medical diagnosis.
Yeah, the programmer with the best idea wins a trip to
Barstow.
Yeah, remember how well it works for us at the university level in the campus bookstores?
What about a direct link from the customer service operator to the end user?
Yeah, that'll be hot.
Medical diagnosis or maybe
What we
long-distance
need is
counseling.
a win-win situation with the software guys.
This is crazy. No one has thought about the system, so they shout out stupid ideas.
I know we want to be fast off the mark with knockout ideas.
We're talking
but
about
do
the
we
product
sprint or
users.
go the distance with
Can't
them?
really separate
I think we
that
should go
from
all
the
out.
whole marketing
We aren't
campaign.
using the leverage we have in
Short-term
different marketing
visibility.
Yeah, I think our
long-term
strategy ought to
viability.
be to
No,
test the
just the
idea
opposite.
and then
Let's
pass
follow
the
the
torch on to the
population
other
boom and
divisions.
go with the
And there
gray
will
market.
be accounting implications depending on...
These people make no sense.
Yeah, remember how well it
sub-entities and
worked
channel
for us at the
distribution.
university level in the campus
Chung, do you have
stores?
anything to add?
I haven't finished my assessment of the system. If you can wait until the end of the day, I'll have my report ready on your desk.
But don't you have anything to add now?
He thinks I'm unqualified for my job. My report will be better than these stupid ideas.
I was very much brought up in don't say anything until you've thought it through. The last thing that I want to be is impulsive. The last thing I want to be is just shoot from the hip. Yet many times in a corporate situation, that's a value. So as an Asian female, what I need to do is learn more about my cultural training, and the bicultural part of me comes out, and here's how I have to perform in corporate life.
Last time we agreed with Brainstorm about alternative uses for the new system. Are you ready to kick it around?
Well, before we get started, some people here may not be familiar with brainstorming. I think we should say something about the process.
Good idea. Please do.
Okay. Well, brainstorming is a kind of a wild, loose way to generate new ideas.
It's important to help workers who are different to participate. When people don't understand the culture, they may dismiss others as stupid. As a result, many employees are unable to make their greatest contributions.
To get involved. I think brainstorming is an activity you might learn to enjoy. And if you feel more comfortable talking with your boss later or putting your suggestions in writing, you can do that too.
I think the system can be adapted to all our uses. Flexibility is its greatest characteristic, and we should leverage that without committing our marketing to distinct marketing segment. I say we run it up the flagpole and see who salutes.
The danger to minorities in homogeneous organization is that you're very likely to be confronted with all sorts of challenges to you and to what you're about, many of which are rooted in stereotypes about your particular ethnicity. Stereotypes about blacks being lazy or violent or oversexed or whatnot will lead to certain kinds of behavior and comments and so forth.
In our corporate culture, we like aggression. It is very important that we have aggressive, driving people. We'll have a white male banging on the table saying, "I want that schedule done today." And everybody will say, "Whoa, he is good. He's a leader. He gets things done. I want to be on his team." Same situation, a white female. "I want that schedule done today." You'll get the rest of the team going, "Whoa, who gave her the right? Isn't she a little pushy today? Maybe something's wrong." Same situation with a black male. "I want that schedule done today." And everybody in the room is quiet. He is militant and violent.
These are not minor problems, and there are things we have to deal with, and there are things we have to confront head on. But the first thing we have to do is get our own emotions under control so that we deal with those things rationally and strategically rather than out of anger or blind rage.
I think it's important to acknowledge that people do have stereotypes about other people. It's important to understand what those stereotypes are and to work at bringing down the barriers, changing the stereotypes, and educating people, changing their assumptions.
The first time that I meet someone, I run the risk of that person never, ever having met, talked to, or even shaken hands with an Asian. The only Asian they probably have seen is on the TV screen or in the movie or some kung fu exhibition. So that I make it a point to have them understand me and make it a point to negotiate the negative assumptions that might be going through their mind. I make it a point to speak clearly and say something as opposed to being quiet, which they probably think I am.
Why does an employee have to adjust his or her style to the culture and the invisible rules of organization? Well, the simplest reason is if the employee wants to move ahead, he or she has to understand what counts in the organization. But equally important is rather than being a chameleon, the individuals understand what they themselves stand for and to know where they can compromise and where they cannot.
People who haven't made that decision or haven't decided where they're going to draw the line and what they'll give up and what they'll keep beforehand are now faced with the problem of doing it on the fly and run the risk of accepting a set of values that the organization puts upon them. And if that organization has been fairly inflexible or has been fairly homogeneous, it's highly likely that if they accept that set of values lock, stock, and barrel, I mean, you can't be a complete deviant, but if you accept it whole hog, that you're going to fail. And you're going to fail in one of two ways. Either you will try to out-white white people or out-male males if you're female and not succeed at it and not be very good, or you will succeed at it, be promoted and move along, but find yourself feeling fairly isolated and unhappy.
I don't compromise my values. I perform in the organization in a manner that I'm comfortable with, and I don't give up my cultural values to get ahead. I try to have the two work hand in hand.
Adaptation to a new culture or a new business that you're coming in my opinion, does not mean giving up your uniqueness. Your uniqueness is one of the reasons that you were hired.
Diverse men and women have made immeasurable contributions to science, medicine, architecture, the arts. A black American invented the traffic light. A Polish immigrant discovered vitamins. A Haitian founded Chicago. An Arab American created the first ice cream cone. A Russian American stuffed the first teddy bear. What would we do without ice cream cones, teddy bears, and Chicago? And what would our organizations do without the contributions of diverse men and women, young and old, individuals with disabilities, people of different religious, racial, and ethnic groups? But the benefits of diversity are not always automatic. We all have to learn to value one another and work together. For the employee, this means finding ways to adapt to the requirements of the multicultural workplace. Learn the rules. Look for clues. Watch those who have succeeded. Ask questions. Manage your boss. Make a real contribution. Build a support base for your work and see that your performance is recognized. Don't stay isolated in your group. Find mentors and establish relationships with people in the mainstream. Respect individual and cultural differences. There is richness in diversity and power in working together. And most important of all, value yourself and your difference. When you learn to be bicultural, you can succeed in your organization and maintain your own identity and integrity.